whoa, what are you doing? We can't use that. We'll get, like, sued or something. Just start the show.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Let's Get Real. I am Will, and I'm surrounded by cinephiles all around me. These guys know what the heck they're talking about. I'm so glad they're here because I certainly don't. So I want to introduce my co-hosts, Tom and Nick. How are you guys doing, man?
Hey, Will.
What's up, man?
I'm doing good, man.
I'm good.
Well, we've got a packed show today, right? We're going to talk about what we've been watching. We've also have two movies we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about Halloween Kills and Dune because we missed last week and we had it all prepped up ready to talk about Halloween Kills, but we couldn't not talk about Dune because of obvious reasons that will become apparent as we get on with the show.
We have a super fan in the house.
We do. I don't know which one of the three of us it is, but
we'll find out.
I have a feeling it's probably me. Yeah. All right. Well, then let's get right to it. First and foremost, what have you been watching, Nick? What can people look forward to watching or to stay away from?
I got two quick things. One modern and one not modern because I'm the king of watching stuff that has nothing to do with modern times.
Yeah, you stay on Turner Classic Movies.
Yeah, man. So the modern thing is I've been watching the hell out of the Batman trailer. The new one that just dropped. What was it? Yeah, it's the Batman trailer. I've been watching the crap out of it.
Yes, that is.
Yeah, it's I've enjoyed it.
So you're liking it then?
I am liking it. Yeah, I am liking it. I am not Batmaned out at this point. I love me some Batman. I like the even when they announced Robert Pattinson, I think the reaction a lot of people has like, huh, okay, but I kind of quickly was like, that's fine because like people had that reaction when Heath Ledger was cast as the Joker years ago and he turned out to kill it. So Pattinson is a really good actor when you're not watching him as like a twinkly vampire. So I think he's going to do a really good job.
Very true.
But yeah, I liked it. I thought the trailer was really cool. Zoe Kravitz looks great. Colin Farrell, holy crap. If you've seen the trailer, like Colin Farrell is the Penguin and you would never know. If you didn't know it was Colin Farrell, you would never know that's Colin Farrell. Yeah. And I'm a big fan of
unrecognizable.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. Like I love it when actors just disappear into like a character and you can't even tell it's them. I just think that's super cool. So I liked it. I like the visuals. I like the tone of it and everything. And I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I love me some Batman. Other thing,
I think I'm surrounded by Batman fans.
Yeah. I love Batman too. I as well. I'm never going to be Batmaned out. I gotta say, one thing I will say I'm Batmaned out of that I personally have already told Nick.
Yeah,
is I'm over rebooting Batman, like, because my favorite parts of Batman, like of his beginning, we've already like explored so much and done to death that like even here they're starting over, but they're like, but it's year 2, it's not year 1,
right?
Again,
so
you know what I mean. So,
you shouldn't watch the pearls fall into the ground in the alleyway again. Right?
Yeah. I don't need to see the Waynes die again, man. No, I swear. No. If I have to see the Waynes die, the Waynes or Uncle Ben, I never need to see them die ever again. Yes. I've had enough. You know what I mean?
I wholeheartedly agree with that.
But I will say my favorite parts of Batman tend to, with a young Batman have been explored. I'm ready for them to explore the Bat family and all of that other stuff, and to explore Robin and Nightwing, and to explore their relationship with Batman and how we get to this point.
Right, and Ace the Bat Hound.
Well, no, not him. Well, actually, Ace is is one of those great fan service things, isn't it? Like anytime he just shows up, you're like, oh, that's Ace. And it's like, but he never does anything. It's just a dog that like follows, either Bruce or Alfred around or whatever. It'd be great. But anyway, but that being said, I do love everything I saw in this trailer. Like it may not be exactly where I want things to go right now, but what they gave me looked great.
Yeah. So I am Batmaned out. But I will say, I saw this trailer for the first time when I went to the movie theater to watch Dune. So I saw it on an RPX screen.
Oh, good.
So it was bigger than life. And I gotta say, I like this deranged Batman. This guy is
See, yeah,
he is a damaged individual, and that's the Batman that I enjoy from the comic
hmm
books. And this is the first time we're really seeing it. I think, at least on the trailer, is what it seems like. He's damaged goods, and he's going for it. And I enjoyed
yeah.
that part of it. So yeah, I'm gonna keep an open mind.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that just really speaks to the strength of what Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson have probably done with this movie. That out of the three of us, Nick was pretty much really sold on the concept for the most part and was really all in and really enjoyed the trailer. I wanted something kind of completely different and still was like, yeah, but the trailer was dope. And then you were like, I don't want to look at Batman at all, but maybe that one. Maybe I'll
Yeah.
watch that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
that's
and
exactly
well,
right.
and
Yeah.
you guys, and the thing too that I liked about it is that and I don't know if this will happen yet. Time will tell. We'll have to see. But like one of the things that I have always wanted to see more of in terms of going in a different direction that I don't think has been explored enough is like Batman as a detective. Because like he's called the world's greatest detective, and I feel like we haven't gotten enough of that. And I'm
We've
hoping,
It's one of those that's a criticism that we get all the time, that I hear all the time, and I always go back and when I watch Batman movies, which is funny because my kids just watched through the Dark Knight trilogy just this past weekend, and there are several points throughout that trilogy where he is being a detective.
there
yeah,
Like
are, there
but
he
that's
are.
that
not
he does
Batman
stuff,
though.
but my thing is, but my thing is, this is like, so I'm always kind of like, what do you guys mean when you say be a detective? Do you mean like more noir, like more
Uh,
longer, drawn out, like kind of thing, or
yeah,
are you
I,
talking about? Because I mean, even if you go back to Batman 1989, the Joker had come up with this chemical that nobody else was able to figure out, but Batman had already been working on this, and he was both a scientist and a detective,
yeah.
like Batman normally is.
I think he's
And
talking about the Jim Aparo Batman back in the day,
what?
back in the '70s
Oh,
when he wrote this. He had the blue cowl and the
yeah,
gray shirt and a big old yellow bat symbol on his chest with a big circle on it. That's when
yeah.
he actually did like forensics works. Like he was like a real
Well,
like Sherlock Holmes type of
that's
guy.
part of it. I just mean like, and what I was gonna say is I hope that with the introduction of the Riddler, having all these riddles and things like that, and these mind games and stuff, I'm hoping that maybe they'll be able to incorporate a little bit more of like the sort of deductive reasoning and intellectualism and stuff like that
Right,
into the
right.
character,
Well, that's one thing I will
along
definitely
with
say.
like the ass kicking because we got to have the ass kicking. That's
Oh,
That,
awesome.
that-
you saw the
that's
answer
And,
in
oh
definitely
the
in
yeah,
it.
trailer.
yeah,
That's in there.
but
It's in the
that
trailer.
right, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And I don't want to see a bat computer figure all the clues out.
sure.
It's got to be him.
That's true too.
Yeah, and
That's true.
that's kind of what I mean. But to move this along though, so it sounds like it sounds like we're all pretty much in on the Batman trailer at the very
Yeah,
least.
yeah. I think
Um,
that's a full agreement.
the
That's a win.
other thing I watched really quickly, the old thing that has nothing to do with modern times necessarily. I watched for the first time this week The Elephant Man, the David Lynch
Mm,
movie from 1980, and I for the most part I liked it. It was it's shot in black and white, which I thought the cinematography was gorgeous. There's there's a, if anybody's seen it, there's a couple of scenes. Well, really, the very first scene and the very closing scene are very kind of like esoteric and weird, and because it's David Lynch. But like
Right.
the rest of the movie was very normal, so it just made those two things kind of stick out like sore thumbs by comparison to me. Um, but overall, I liked it. I thought it was a really solid movie. John Hurt's performance as the Elephant Man, I thought was great. The makeup job that they were able to do in 1980, I thought was pretty fantastic when you see it. It's a sad movie, kind of, so it's not like a family feel good film, but it's a story about a seriously deformed man who gets picked on, and people hate him. But Anthony Hopkins' character is a doctor who, finds this guy and has a lot of compassion for him, and basically like gives him a better life living in a hospital essentially, but where he can kind of be normal and people come to visit him, and over the course of time, no, people aren't really afraid of him, and but it's a really interesting movie that I kind of dug for the most part.
Cool.
mhm.
I will say I've not seen it, so I can't
I haven't either.
contribute much to this conversation.
Yeah, I'm
It's
not.
all good.
I can say I'm not a big David Lynch fan.
That was my first Lynch movie. I haven't. I actually own Eraserhead, but I haven't watched it yet. So that was my
I've never
introduction.
seen that either. I've never seen Eraserhead either.
So you
But
never so you guys didn't watch the original Dune then, the David Lynch
No.
version?
no,
I
that's
didn't.
why that's
I
why I'm
didn't.
so excited to talk to you about it,
All
Will,
right.
because I well, we'll get into Dune later. But here, let me tell you guys what I've been watching.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Please
Let's
do.
hear
All right. So it's that time of year again, and there's a new season of You on Netflix. Let
Of
me
me?
tell you, man. No, you know. Anyway, but yeah, no, that show, man. I got to tell you, this is one of those shows that you know how you have sometimes those streaming shows that you just happen upon just because I don't know. Netflix shows it to you at the right time when you're sitting down with like a sandwich at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday, and you're like, why not? Right? That's what You was for me because no one pitched that to me. No one said anything about. I had never heard about this show before, and I sat down and watched it. And then, of course, as you get into it, you're like, holy crap, he's killing people, like So it's like Dexter, but more of it's really it's not like Dexter. It's very different. This guy's like just a straight up serial killer. He usually gets obsessed with these women, and he ends up killing people around these women, with dealing with their lives and everything. Now and then getting into season 3, things have gotten really insane because he's married to a woman who also kills people. It's a crazy thing, but
Spoilers.
yeah, hey, hey,
Just to say
hey,
that.
hey, hey. It's season 3. If you
That's
guys haven't gotten to this point,
no. I was gonna
It's
say
whatever.
it's
actually
fine.
number one.
I have
It's
no
number one on the
intention.
Netflix queue right now, and it
It
was
is.
next on my
Yes.
list. And now you just blew it out because now it's spoiled.
Yeah.
I can't watch
No,
it.
it's fine.
It's in the trailers.
I
It's in
had
the trailer.
I had
Figured you
absolutely
would
no
know that.
intention. I have no intentions of ever watching this show, so it's fine.
I will say this. I don't think it's a show that you would like, Nick. Will, I think you would enjoy it, actually. It was originally, here's the crazy thing. If from what I remember, the first season originally was either supposed to air on Lifetime or was created for Lifetime. And then it like didn't work out and it ended up like on Netflix, or it aired there and then canceled on Lifetime and became a Netflix original because it just didn't get the traction there. And then now it's like one of their biggest shows on Netflix,
Well, I do truly have it on my queue, and it's actually next on my queue, waiting to be watched. So
Then I apologize for
check it out.
spoiling it for you.
No,
At least season 3, you at least don't watch any trailers for season 3 either.
yeah, no, I've got quite a few shows before I get to season 3, so we'll be
Yeah.
fine. I'll forget
Yeah,
about
but
it.
I think you'll, even with that one tidbit, there's a lot in there you won't be able to say. You're gonna really, I like I say, Nick, it's not for you, dude. Just avoid that.
Yeah, I mean,
avoid
I figured.
that.
I figured.
But Will, I would honestly be surprised if you didn't like it,
All right.
because there's some things that in there I know you might be iffy about, but I think overall the delivery on how they do it, I think you'll be a fan.
Cool. I'll let you know. I'll let you know my thoughts.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, I actually watched the morning show with Jennifer Aniston,
Yes.
right? So in that, I can't believe I slept on this thing for so long.
I can't either.
So I think when Apple TV Plus first came out, that was one of the very first shows, and I tried watching it, and it didn't click with me. So I just like because then I tried to watch the Momoa one too. Was it See or Hear?
Yeah,
or
I
Taste
didn't get
or
into
whatever it
that
is,
one either.
right? I couldn't get
Yeah.
into that. And I tried another one, Apple TV Plus, and I couldn't get into that. It's like, oh God, okay, I'm done on Apple TV Plus. But then Ted Lasso came out, and I loved Ted Lasso. So then the wife and I decided, well, let's catch something else. Oh, Jennifer Aniston. Well, I tried watching that, but let's try it again. And man, we were caught from the very top. We were so by the end of the first season, literally that last shot in the first season, Karen and I turned to each other and we were like unbelievably jazzed at how perfectly they closed out that season. And it was unbelievable. And then, of course, we went directly into season 2 and it's not over yet. So now we're caught up and now we're like, right. But
I'm
then
a couple episodes behind personally.
So then we watched, or I watched, what I call Underwater Alien. It's a movie called Underwater.
Oh, I like Underwater too.
It is
That's a
actually
good one.
Alien
Yeah.
Underwater, right? That's
Yeah.
almost exactly. So
Pretty much the movie.
I actually enjoyed it. It was actually kind of tense, and when that thing tries to like swallow her whole inside the I mean, it
Yeah.
was effective, so I enjoyed it. So.
I got to tell you, with first off, just to follow back up on morning show, I'm so glad you came back and watched it again, because that's when you really enjoy things. Will is on the second viewing.
That's a great point. That is a very good
It's
point.
always
Yeah.
on the second viewing.
Yeah.
So, but uh, and I love the morning show, but on Underwater. Okay, Underwater is one of those movies that I like. First time I saw it, I think it came out just last year. So first time I saw, I want to say I saw it in January last year, I believe, right at the beginning of the slate of movies that were releasing on HBO Max, same day and date and everything.
Right.
But I was really surprised because I did not watch a trailer. I just went to watch the movie.
Yeah.
Like I
same thing
didn't
with me.
read anything. I just was like, yeah, just
Yeah.
pressed it. And then that movie pops off fast. Stuff happens like
Well,
immediately.
yeah, it actually surprised me because you're like 5 minutes in, and it's very introspective. Kristen Stewart is talking about stuff, whatever, and all of a sudden, bam, bam, explosions,
Bam, bam, bam.
and
Yeah.
sand everywhere. I was like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah. And there's a lot of people in it
Yeah,
too.
there
Like
are,
a
yeah.
lot of what is it? Jessica Henwick is, I believe that's her name if I'm not butchering it, and everything there from the god awful Iron Fist and from Game of Thrones.
That's right. That's right. And I didn't realize that she had a British accent until I watched
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, no, but I liked Underwater. Nick, that's one I would recommend to you.
Interesting. Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, you might like that one because I like to show. I've shown that movie or recommended it to a couple of people, and I keep telling them that's one of those ones where I tell them try to go in like I went in with as little information as possible.
I
So
agree. Yeah.
and so I said because that's where you'll get more enjoyment, because I think if you know enough of the plot going in, then I think the movie probably plays out more formulaic and everything there, which of course that wasn't my experience or yours, Will, because we didn't know crap. So it was like,
Right,
yeah,
well,
this give me more.
Well, I kind of ruined it a little bit by calling it Underwater Alien for Nick. But
I don't know. I think there's I think you probably kind of ruin it, but not probably on the same level of me ruining you for you.
yeah,
You know, it doesn't ruin it, but
Are-
you're gonna have some really good
Is
fun.
there like are there like underwater chest bursters?
let's just let
Let's
you
leave
watch
it at that.
Right,
Let's
let's
leave it
let
at
you watch
that.
So that's a yes.
Perfect. That's,
That's
a
a
perfect
yes.
place to leave it off.
But
That's a perfect.
T.J. Miller plays a role in the thing, and I didn't even
Okay.
recognize him at first. I was like, "What? This guy sounds familiar. Who the heck is it?" And all of a sudden, I realized, "Oh, it's freaking T.J.
Yeah.
Miller." I couldn't, and then
Yeah.
of course he plays T.J. Miller and ends up stealing the movie while he's in it. But
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
It's a pretty good movie. I dig it. But now I think it's time for us to move into Halloween Kills. Are we going to do Halloween Kills
Yes.
first, or we're going to
Yes.
save Dune for last?
Yeah.
We figured we
Yeah.
would end on a hopefully more positive note. Yeah, Halloween Kills. So this was and we should say this is just, we're not even going to bother with a spoiler free section. We're just going to get right to the meat of this because we have to get to another movie.
It's a
So,
Halloween movie, people.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's
A lot of people die.
you're not really
Mhm.
wrong. I mean, that's kind of the thing. Like if you're a fan of the Halloween series as I am, I mean, first of all, you know that half of them are straight trash, but the other half are pretty great.
Sadly, this one falls in the other half.
Yeah, so it's like, it's funny because like, so you guys never saw Halloween 2018, which I think a lot of other people would argue is a much better movie.
I mean, it kind of has to be, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, by comparison, you would think like, how much worse could it be? But no, I really do think though, that if you guys ever do get a chance to go back and watch it, I really do think it's worth a watch, at least if for no other reason than to just get the taste of Halloween Kills out of your mouth. Because I really do think in all sincerity that of all of the kind of, like, we've seen Friday the 13th rebooted, we've seen Nightmare on Elm Street rebooted, we've seen several classic horror series get rebooted years and years down the line. I really do think, honestly, that Halloween 2018 is the best example of doing something like that.
Reboot, though. That's not a reboot. That's a
Well,
continuation.
Not a reboot. It was actually a continuation. It was both. It was just as confusing as the Suicide Squad.
It was kind of both. It was kind of like a half-ass reboot plus, we're retconning everything except the first movie sort of deal. But basically, Halloween 2018, the premise of it was that Michael had been, in an asylum more or less for the last 40 years. So all of the events in the first movie still happened, and they still recognize that as canon. But he's been locked up ever since. And then he gets out and he goes after Laurie, who Jamie Lee Curtis obviously has come back for this series, and he goes after her. And now she has a daughter and a granddaughter. Does Laurie Strode. And so it's now become like this thing of where all three generations of these women kind of band together and, try to fend off Michael Myers. And
well, hold on, Nick. But we didn't watch Halloween 2018.
we didn't. I'm just trying to set the table because Halloween Kills is a sequel to that.
Look, I know that you liked Halloween 2018, and I know that you don't want to just you've admitted that this is gutter trash.
It is,
and that's fine.
But I'm just trying to like let people know. So this movie is a sequel to all of that stuff.
Look, this is a lot of trash that followed what Nick believes was a good movie, and I will take him at face value on that. that it was probably a good movie, but having seen this, I'll probably never go back and watch Halloween 2018.
And that's the thing that's so sad. Yeah, and I can't fault you for that, honestly. This movie is. So I was optimistic because I like Halloween. It's if I was hard pressed to say what my favorite horror film ever is, it would probably be the original 1978 Halloween. And this movie is it's disappointing. It's just, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. You know what I mean?
I'm mad because you made me watch it.
I'm gonna be honest.
I didn't know it was gonna be this bad.
For that,
I didn't know it was gonna be as bad as it is.
I'm not a slasher guy. I'm not a horror guy, and you guys forced me to watch gutter trash type of, But anyway,
it was the time. It was just a season. Will look this movie, but this movie is complete horror. Just trash. Just
it's
trash.
Not good.
Like it's trash.
It's not
it was
good.
horrible. But you know what? All I know is evil dies tonight.
Yeah,
okay.
I hope God
evil
died today. Yeah.
That's the thing. That's like with Reminiscence. Remember with Reminiscence, there was whatever line they had in there about like stop.
I can't even remember that.
It was something about like stop telling me the story when it's in the middle or whatever bullshit it was. You can always tell that when a writer like when a writer is in love with a line, you will hear it 1,000 times throughout the movie, and that was the line in this movie. Evil dies tonight,
and it didn't even make sense. They were trying to get a message across. I got it, right?
Were they?
Yes. They were
what was the message? What was the message, brother?
They were trying to say that we have to be careful because if we're not careful, then suddenly we become the evil that we're trying to kill. Right?
Okay.
All of a sudden,
that was something they were trying to do.
It was.
I picked up on that, and I thought, no. This movie's too dumb to be trying to say anything.
He tried to say it, and he tried to say it in such an overhanded, ham-hocked way that I was annoyed by the fact that even a fourth grader could understand what you're trying to say here.
Yeah,
it was terrible.
Yes.
And then to have my fourth grader daughter is yelling at me for not saying that even she could figure
out. Get him, Sienna.
But then to make matters worse, they totally did like the kung fu thing where we're going to take him on one at a time.
It was so dumb.
You have 50
super
people, and instead one at a time go and karate chop him, and then he gets. It's just
that's the part that killed me the most on it. Halloween Kills me. That's the
Jamie Lee Curtis's lines was killed when they were in the hospital.
Oh well, here's the other thing.
Man, give him a double.
If you're watching this movie, if you're a Jamie Lee Curtis fan and you're watching this movie to see Jamie Lee Curtis, you're not going to see much of her. She doesn't have a whole lot to do in this movie.
Not only that, but the Jamie Lee Curtis that you're going to see is going to ruin Jamie Lee Curtis for
let me tell you something.
Eternity.
Jamie Lee Curtis, I'm convinced, spent maybe 2 days on this set.
Oh, you think that long? I was thinking
maybe. I'm going to say 2 days just because maybe they had to I'm going to assume they had to reschedule something happened, right? room for something to happen.
Well, they had to make more room for the comedy bits at the That was one of the things. So what really disappoints me about this is that like one of the things that I think made the original Halloween so good and so effective was like they didn't focus so much on gore in the original movie. A lot of it was more suspense. A lot of it was more what you didn't see. You know, you didn't see Michael Myers as often. And also, it was like a smaller movie where Michael is just terrorizing these babysitters in this neighborhood. This movie does all of those things like the opposite. So much
Right.
gore. The scale is so much bigger because you have like all the townspeople like banding together to like try to go after this guy. So it's like when you have
Right.
scenes in the original where Michael, he doesn't run, he doesn't do any of that shit, but like he's able to kind of come and go as this sort of supernatural force. And because it's so small in scope, you believe it and you can buy it. But like when the entire town is out looking for this guy, I can't buy that he can just walk down the street and take a nice little stroll and like
Absolutely.
they can't keep up with him and like
Yep.
all this other stuff. And the other thing that got on my fucking nerves while I was watching this, they leaned
You made
so
Nick censor himself.
they leaned so hard into comedy in this movie, and comedy that really wasn't that funny.
It was
Like
super campy, and it doesn't fit with Michael Myers. The
it's
camp does
just
not work.
like there's this sort of subplot. It's not even a subplot, really. That'd be generous calling it that. But like there's an element of this movie where you have this gay couple who is living in the Myers house, which
Right.
I'm like,
Doesn't
how?
make sense
No,
anyway.
it doesn't make sense. Like in the original movies, the house was abandoned. Like in
Yeah.
real life, the
Because
house would have
nobody
been
would buy that house.
no, like in real life, the house would have been demoed in real life, but at least in the original movies, like you can buy that it's like, okay, it's abandoned, nobody goes there, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
In this movie, the house has been like remodeled, it looks great. There's a couple living in it, and they're not only that, but they're like aware that like we live in the Myers house and people were murdered here. And
Oh yeah, and it's like this whole fashion thing for them. Like, it's like this
Yeah,
cool
it's so
status
weird.
thing, like of like a piece of like the local culture or something.
You
Yeah.
can't
Nope.
mess with us. We live in the Myers house.
Yeah, like
Oh
what?
my god.
That yeah,
Kill
it's
me.
so weird, so bad. Like, and they just linger on it for so long. There's like a prolonged death scene in that movie where Michael is like, they dedicated an entire section of the movie to Michael just going after these guys. Like,
Right.
Hold on, real
why?
quick. Can we say like real quick? Nobody got it in this movie worse than that chick's boyfriend, though.
Yes, yeah,
I mean,
he got it
that.
bad.
Why? Like
that was rough.
He got it
That was
bad.
rough.
And that's another thing that just annoys me because like these movies are just leaning so hard into elements that were not what the original story, what made the original story so good in the first place. Like,
Yeah. I mean, and I gotta say, probably the most ironic thing in it for me is that the most gruesome, gory death in the whole thing didn't even happen at Michael Myers' hands. It's when a dude jumped off the building.
yes.
oh yeah.
Yeah. So
That's right.
yeah, so the problem is, so like the town is all like everybody's in an uproar because like Michael is out there and blah blah blah. And like some people, I guess some other people have oh, there was a bus. That's what it was. There was a bus going from the mental asylum, and of course it gets like something happens to it and the people escape. And also Michael, the other crazy thing, Michael kills a kid in this movie. Just
Yeah.
straight up murders a child, which I have to say, I give him credit for having the balls to do that because you don't see that very often. I wish
it's off screen too, though.
kind of yeah,
Yeah.
it kind of but yeah, so these other mental patients escape and stuff like that, and they make their way to the hospital, and somehow the townspeople mistake this tiny like chubby guy who
Yeah.
looks nothing like what Michael Myers would look like for Michael. Like they just think it's him. And so like
That's where the movie really started confusing me because
Well-
I was like, "There's no way you people think that's him."
yeah,
But
like that's
that's when they were heavy-handedly trying to tell
well,
that
yeah,
message.
and that's the thing. It's like
Right.
I get the idea of like, okay, yes, mass hysteria. I get what you're going for. Like I understand that like you're trying to communicate that like, you know, Michael is so ingrained into the mythology of this town, and it's such a stain on this town that it's like, you know, no matter how long these people live, they can never get away or escape the whole Michael Myers thing. And so they're just driven crazy by all of it. But that's not to that level. Like, really? You're going to chase the guy to the hospital, and then the guy just straight up commits suicide, jumps out of a window, and
I mean, he didn't have
splat-
many options.
No, he didn't. He didn't.
I'll be honest, he really didn't.
But it was just like so many weird shark jumpy moments in this movie for me.
Yep.
Like it's
Shark jumpy moments.
yeah,
That's
just so
yeah.
weird. So weird. And then at the end, like we were alluding to earlier, like the townspeople all get together and just beat the shit out of Michael. And I guess one of the other ideas that this
Why didn't
new
anybody just shoot him?
well no that
Let's
well
shoot
'cause-
him. Let's just.
Cut
I
his
mean,
head off.
I'm not. Let me tell you something.
well to be
I'm
fair,
not
they've
like a
done that
big
in
gun
previous movies,
advocate.
and it
But
didn't.
they
pan
don't
out.
exist. Other movies didn't happen.
That is true. That's
Wait,
true.
but this is the part that I just didn't understand about this movie. Okay, let me give you all of the crap, all of it up to the point where we find Michael at the end, and we are a full gone a mob that's just gone. You've
Right.
seen this same mob over at the hospital. They're just going through the streets trying to find Michael now at this point. You're telling me in this small town, okay, in this small town, no one has an AR for 15, like in America.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Just
like,
go ahead and
the,
they weren't waiting for this perfect moment to go protect everybody and be the good guy with the gun that goes out and handles Michael Myers.
I'm not
Apparently
saying that
this-
like I'm not saying that like Haddonfield definitely voted Trump in 2020, but like it's just
I'm just saying.
you would
It
think
looks like a red state to me.
yeah, at the very least it's a red district.
This
Yes.
is the one red city that they actually managed to disarm.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
apparently.
It
But
must
yeah,
be somewhere in
they
New
all
York
band
somewhere.
together to like beat like they all band together to beat the shit out of Michael at the end. And I guess one of the other things this trilogy is now trying to introduce into the story is that Michael
Wait,
really
is that one coming?
is
Yes,
yeah.
there is definitely a third one.
There's a third
They
one.
already
Yeah.
it was baked in.
Yeah, this was
It was
always
baked
this was
in.
always going to be a trilogy, which is why
They
this
already gave what's his name? What was it? Was it from Eastbound and Down?
Danny McBride. So
they already gave Danny McBride his money for the third movie. So we gotta have it.
I'm sure we have him to thank for all the comedy elements in this too.
Mhm.
But like I think one of the other things they're trying to introduce
Well,
into this
you gave him such a big head talking about how great 2018 was, Nick. He's just just told him they apparently gave him the same go ahead that they gave James Wan with Malignant. They were like, just do whatever you want. And he was like, you know what we need? More comedy.
Yeah. We need the guy from Mad TV
Michael
to live in the
Myers.
Myers house.
Look what I can do.
Yeah.
Michael Myers and down.
But the other thing I think they're trying to introduce into this trilogy is the idea that like I think they're going full bore into the idea that Michael is in fact like a supernatural being who just legitimately can't be killed, because at the end of this they all band together to beat the shit out of him and they stab him and do all this stuff. And then like there's this moment where of course you think like, oh wow, they finally did it, like they finally got him down, and then like they cut back to him and he just gets up and just starts one by one stabbing people and like
through.
just one by one in slow-mo murders every single person.
It wasn't even good slow-mo. Zack Snyder would be so disappointed. Look, it's just it's one of those things where this movie look, people, this is what we're trying to say. This movie was trash. We've given this movie way more time than it deserved.
It was not great.
Can
was
we
filler.
close this out and move on and talk about the awesomeness of Dune?
This movie was filler. You'll probably be able to watch the first Halloween from 2018 and then Halloween Ends and you'll never even need to see like what happened in Halloween Kills. It's total filler from start to finish.
Yeah.
That's the nicest, that's the most diplomatic thing I can say about it.
Don't watch Halloween Kills.
Yeah.
Like don't watch Halloween Kills. Like unless you just like really, really want to know how bad it is, don't even like avoid it. Just avoid it.
Yeah.
There's no version of people that I think would enjoy this. I have one guy like on my Facebook feed who loves like every horror movie. Like every horror movie that comes out. He freaking loves it, right? Even the really bad ones. He even started off his like little Facebook review of like, this is not the way.
just like a CEO trying to spin it when his company does something wrong.
Yeah, like this isn't our best foot forward here. But the third one's coming out, and maybe we can, it was just complete spin and crap. But anyway, Halloween Kills. My final verdict on it: complete gutter trash. Don't waste your time.
Yeah.
Even if you're a fan, the only thing that I think that's going to happen is that you will be disappointed.
Yeah. Halloween kills your enthusiasm to watch Halloween movies.
Oh, that's a good one, Nick. That's a good sign off there.
Well,
That
let's
should make. I bet that made Will happy.
It did.
yes,
It
yes,
really
that
did.
was that was for him. But so that's Halloween Kills. We all agree it's just a piece of crap, and you should probably avoid it. Something that I don't think is a piece of crap necessarily. I don't think Tom did either. But I think what we should do is I think Tom and I should just sit back for a second and just give the floor to our good friend Will Rodriguez here to sort of set the table for Dune because this dropped this week on HBO Max. It is one of his favorite books, stories, things ever, I believe. So without any further ado, sir, Mr. Rodriguez, we give you the floor.
Take it away, sir.
Well, thank you for that incredible introduction. You're correct. This was a seminal book for me. I read it when I was around 14 years old, and it changed my life. It threw me into a wild and woolly world of science fiction that I've never looked back from. I got so deep into this book that there was a board game that came out that I got and played incessantly. There were a subsequent series of books after sequels that he wrote that I threw myself into. Everything Dune has been the most anticipated movie of maybe my lifetime.
Wow.
Right. So let me preface by saying that. I watched the David Lynch version back in '84, I think it was.
Mhm.
Right? And of course, I was anticipating it like I was this one because it's Dune, man. And I gotta say, for what it was, right? This is a long movie, and it's complicated, and it is Game of Thrones in space, right? So to try to compact the entire book into one movie is a physical impossibility. David Lynch came really close, but it was weird, and it was felt super rushed, and there was a lot of things that were just glossed over, and it wasn't great. But for what it was at the time when I saw it, I enjoyed it because it was Dune on the big screen. All right. Sci-Fi Channel tried to do a miniseries a few years ago also of Dune and Children of Dune that spanned over a series of nights because they knew they couldn't do it all in one 2-hour movie. And that came a little closer to the actual feel of Dune, but the budget wasn't there. So Dune, when you read Dune, it is a world so rich in texture that you feel it. Like you feel what it feels like to live in Dune. And the miniseries didn't give that to me. So I'm a huge fan of Dune. I'm also happen to be a huge fan of Denis Villeneuve, who is the director. I think Blade Runner 2049 is an absolute masterpiece. I think Arrival, which is the first movie that I saw of his, was unbelievably entertaining, if nothing else. I think he is, before him, one of my favorite directors was Ridley Scott. The reason why I love Ridley Scott is because he focuses on the details. He makes a world that you can feel lived in. Denny does the same thing. He makes you feel like this is a real world that it is lived in. So I was very much looking forward to seeing what Denis Villeneuve, who is also an avowed lover of the source material, could do with this book, especially because he already knew he couldn't do it in all in one movie. He had to split it up between 2 movies in order to tell the full tale of the single book. So that was encouraging to me. So out comes Dune, Denis Villeneuve's Dune. And I, of course, have to watch it on the biggest screen possible. So we went on a Tuesday on a matinee where there would be nobody in the theater but us. So we can watch this thing in its full splendor. Went to RPX, the Regal Cinema, with a big, huge screen and a massive sound system. And I sat and I watched what I have been anticipating pretty much my whole life. And I will say this. This movie, I don't think, is for everybody. I don't think Denis Villeneuve made this for the casual moviegoer, and I think it's going to not be successful in the long run because of that. But I will tell you, that as I'm watching this movie, I literally wept because that was the Dune that I read.
Wow.
Yeah. That's a Dune that I read. And for me, like there were times when, and we'll go into spoilers, but one character comes out with and presents a certain knife to one of the other characters and names it for the first time. I literally wept because they used all the exact terminology. They used the exact characters. The characters were freaking dead, freaking on. Paul Atreides, Timothy Chalamet, it makes the perfect Paul Atreides. In the book, he was kind of aloof, and it was one of the things where you don't know how is he so charismatic that he would be attracting all these people to kind of worship him. This dude is a pasty white, tall, young dude. How can anyone be following him? That's how he was in the book. There's a reason for that. I'm not going to spoil it right now. But I felt the same thing when I'm watching Timothy Chalamet as Paul Atreides. I'm going, dude, that is freaking Paul. Every character was 100% true to form to the book. The only thing that I would say is, even though he split into two movies, it still didn't give me the character development that I needed. Gurney Halleck is one of the most amazing characters in the book, and he is totally glossed over. He's in it for like 10 minutes. And this dude is a bad ass that is going to play. I don't want to spoil it too much, but it's a character that's going to stick in your mind for a long time. I don't feel it the way that he was portrayed in the movie. But other than that, that was the world that I lived in. The sound design. There were times where Karen was plugging her ears, but she couldn't handle the Hans Zimmer soundtrack, which I thought was freaking genius for this movie. And the set designs, the ships, the massive, like the sheer size of these vehicles compared to humanity and what he was saying with that. I mean, everything was unbelievable. The one other thing that turned me off was when we see our first Fremen, and suddenly I questioned why Fremen were Hispanic. Because he was talking like this, like he was from Colombia, right? And it threw me a little bit because Javier Bardem obviously has a strong accent, and they try to play it like it's. I mean, let's call it how it is, right? These are meant to be sand people, right? Arabic people from that part of the world, and they did not cast that way. That's the only disconnect I think that I saw. There was an opportunity to cast diversity that they didn't take advantage of in that sense, right? So I gotta say, guys, I freaking loved it, and I'm so glad that they're coming out with the Dune Part 2 because I would have been devastated if they didn't complete the movie.
I think they knew they were doing part 2. In fact, I think they already shot stuff for part 2 and put it in the trailer.
Well,
and then
they actually Denny wanted to shoot them back to back, and they denied him. My understanding.
Yeah,
you believe that really well, huh?
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that happened. I believe they spent all this money on a cliffhanger freaking movie and had no intentions of if it didn't end as abruptly as it does, then I would say I would buy that a little bit more. And if they didn't already have a date for it for part 2, it wasn't like they announced part 2 and they're like, all right, we're gonna make part 2, and they had to put stuff together. It's coming out in 2023. You shot part of that movie already, okay? I saw the size of your cast. Everybody's in this movie. Yes. You're not getting them back together to shoot something and it's going to make it here in 2023, like right on time, if you didn't already have that planned. Okay, I'm not a sucker. But all right, but I will say this. I have to say this. One, Will, I did not know that you were that big of a fan of Dune. Like that. Like that's
the man wept, Tom.
The closest thing that I have to what you're talking about is Batman.
Yeah,
So
same.
it's like,
I have cried. I
it's
have cried at a Batman
it's
movie
it's
before.
Batman, because that's the thing. If you do Batman well enough, which is why I'm so excited for this freaking movie after seeing that trailer. Because again, I didn't want your Batman, Matt Reeves, but you have made me feel like I have to see it. Right?
Right.
If that's how you felt any way, shape, or form going into this movie and everything, they're like, just like how you said, like even the old Dune, you can recognize it wasn't a good movie, but just the fact that you got Dune
Yeah.
was enough. That's kind of how I felt when we were getting Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. You
Right?
know, at least I got to see Batman.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I left it at that. You know,
Yeah.
but I have to say, because I don't. Nick, I don't know how much you knew about Dune going in. Did you know a lot going in
No, I
to
did
your
not.
viewing?
I knew that Dune was a thing. I will say that.
Hmm.
I was aware of the existence of Dune. Obviously I knew that Lynch had made it in the 80s, and then I've always heard about, and I'm going to butcher the dude's name, but like Jorodowski, is that how it's pronounced?
Jodorowsky, yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
so he had I guess at least a concept for it. There was
It
like a
was
documentary made about what he would have done, I
yeah.
suppose.
Yes, yes.
That
Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it, but I do know that people talk about it a lot because I guess like I guess he had good ideas. I don't know, like
Oh,
what?
no.
No, no,
No,
oh,
no.
not good.
No,
Okay,
no. I will
Because
tell
they
you,
must.
as a fan of Dune, I think the god above that this dude
okay,
did not get the funds to make
okay.
that
So
movie
that's a
because it would
documentary
have
about
been
like, thank
butchered.
God this guy never made it.
No, there are people who love his version of
Okay,
Dune,
okay,
but that is not Dune. That is some
I gotcha.
abomination.
But I will say, no, I knew nothing about Dune. I went into this like I had thought before the last couple of weeks got so busy for me. I had thought I would try to fit in watching Lynch's Dune. And then of course I went with Elephant Man, so oh well. But I was like, but you know what?
It's
No,
shorter.
because yeah, yes, that was actually a big reason for that because that movie is less than 2 hours.
Right.
Um, but I didn't watch it, so I went into it cold, and I was telling Will before we got on to start recording. I said, you know, because sci-fi is not my favorite genre generally. It's not my least favorite genre, but it's not my favorite either necessarily. Like I grew up on Star Wars and stuff like that, so that stuff I always liked. But like when you get into stuff that is, I don't know if headier is the right word, but just not as like Star Wars is super kid friendly. You know what I mean? It's got like a lot of flashing lights and stuff like that, and all the characters and stuff. Dune is much more. I feel like adults would probably appreciate it a little bit more, maybe than kids,
It's
or at
heavy
least
sci-fi.
yeah, or at least young kids. Teenagers would probably dig it, but
Well, so my daughter wants to watch it, but I think she'd be bored to death. So I
well,
don't know. If she
that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like that's sort of what I'm trying to say, I guess, is that like the Star Wars sci-fi stuff is fun and it's engaging, and I think it would hold a kid's attention. But this is a little bit more, like you said, like I think you made a great comparison of like Game of Thrones in space, because as I was watching it, I got a very Game of Thronesy type of vibe from it, which was one of the things that kept me invested in it, because Game of Thrones is one of my favorite shows ever, minus season 8. We don't talk about that,
Yeah,
but
yes, yes.
but that was one of the I did get that kind of
Something else you love that ended on a cliffhanger if you just
yes.
cut off season 8.
Yes, exactly. But no, I totally did get that kind of vibe from it, which being someone who knows nothing about Dune and being someone who came into it very cold and not necessarily being the biggest sci-fi fan in the world, that element plus what you just said about when you meet the first Fremen, I texted Tom because as I was watching it yesterday, because I was telling him, like, we were having a conversation. I was like, holy shit, everybody is in this movie. Because
Yeah.
I went in so cold. I had no idea how much of an ensemble cast he really put together for this movie. And so I'm
Mhm.
texting Tom, and the minute I see Javier Bardem, I was like, Javier Bardem, because like like I love Javier Bardem. No Country for Old Men is one of my favorite movies in the history of ever. So for someone like me, even though I don't have the information of like, okay, this probably should have been an Arabic person, him as that character, that was a moment for me like, okay, I'm more in now, because like
Right.
Javier Bardem is in this movie. I
Well,
love me some Javier Bardem. Like,
well, see, being a fan of Dune and a fan of Denis Villeneuve, as the casting announcements were coming out, I was getting more and more excited, right? Because
Mhm.
Timothée Chalamet as Paul, yeah, I could see it. Jason Momoa as Duncan Idaho, oh yeah. Duke Lido, played by Oscar Isaacs. Oh my God, Lady Jessica is uh, Help me out. What's her name?
She's the reminiscence chick. She was the one that Rebecca Ferguson.
Rebecca Ferguson.
Yeah.
I love that we can never remember her. It's
Yeah.
funny that happened, Will, because when Nick was watching it yesterday, we had this exact moment where we were like, and I was trying to remember what her name was and where the hell I saw her from last, and then I remembered it was Reminiscence, and I was like, I've already forgotten that movie.
and then they announced who Gurney Halleck was, and then they announced who Baron Harkonnen was, and then they announced who Chani was. I mean, it will have you and Stilgar. I mean, every single casting notice just built on my excitement because this was it's like I slammed the Snyderverse a lot with the Superman thing because I don't feel he really understands the character, right? Because he casts in a really weird way. But and I know that's fighting words, but
I'm not even gonna.
But when it comes to Dune, the way he cast shows me that he flipping gets it. Like he understands these characters and what he's trying to do, what the story's about, with the exception of the Fremen. But I understand why he didn't want to go that route because politically it's difficult to do that. But because of what's coming, right? So I get it, but the excitement just built and built and built to the point where if this thing wasn't the absolute masterpiece that it is, I would have been crushed.
Well, here's my take on it, because I, like Nick, really didn't know much about Dune, but here's what I did know, and this will probably be a deep cut that Will may even remember this since he's a super fan. The only time that I know anything about Dune was there used to be a video game, a Command and Conquer style video game.
I played that game too.
You played it, so you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely. I played it to death. To this day, I'm trying to find it to play it again. It over and over and over.
Well, my mom liked Dune. Like because my mom loves hard sci-fi. She loves hard sci-fi, right? My dad does not. So there was just, it was always kind of this thing that my mom would introduce me into because she's who got me into superheroes and Star Trek and Star Wars and everything there. Dune, I think she felt kind of like you feel with your daughter, Will, where it was like, you're not going to be able to get into
not ready.
this. It's too heavy. It's just, there's so much. Whereas, so when I would play that game, because she got me that game, I'm kind of getting introduced to this world because they used to have the cool thing. So there was cool things for me. What this was like the best video game movie ever made.
I'm offended.
Unintentionally, the best video game movie ever made. Because the moment and of course we're in the spoilers and everything here now, guys.
We're not yet.
We're not in the spoilers. Okay, well, there's a moment there that happens, with the sandworm and everything that was right out of that video game, but just really it's right out of the books and everything there. Yeah. But it was kind of cool because I'm thinking to myself, like, how is that going to affect my personal viewing of this? And then, it turns out it's kind of like the best video game movie ever made. But the thing that I think that you'll really appreciate, Will, and what you'll appreciate that Denis Villeneuve has done here is, beyond that, I really wasn't a fan, and I haven't played that game since
long time.
And it's old, like maybe 98. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, I think it was like 98, 99, 2000.
Yeah,
but no later than that.
No later than that. I know I wasn't playing it in high school, is what I'm saying. So my whole thing is this. So with that little bit that I had there and then getting this, I was trying to remember stuff that I did remember because you used to be able to play the Atreides or the Harkonnen. So but I really didn't know much about the lore because it was a video game. It didn't get that heavy into it, even though it told you a lot of stuff. Okay, so I start watching this movie, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be very honest with you. Like you started off with, I don't think this movie is going to be for everybody. But I do think that Denis Villeneuve is going to bring in a lot of new fans to this franchise.
I hope you're right.
And I think because there's some people who have been somewhat maybe like me that are Dune adjacent, where they just don't know much about Dune. They just know it's a thing that exists, kind of like how Harry Potter fandom exists. I'm not a big Harry Potter fan, like until you get to the later movies. But I'm not a big fan. But I respect it, kind of like Doctor Who. It's this fandom that exists that I just respect, and I never could really get into it. Dune was kind of this whole fandom that existed that I never really gave a chance because no one there's so few people like that you meet that are just big Dune heads and you find out about that. You know what I mean? So no one really was introducing me to it until this movie's come out, and Denis Villeneuve was like, "I'll introduce you to some shit. Look,
Yeah.
look, 'cause I'm gonna tell you, every visual in this movie it's a stunning visual
It's
masterpiece.
gorgeous.
It's
Absolutely.
beautiful,
Yeah.
absolutely beautiful. The casting was fantastic. Because let me tell you, Timothy Chalamet is not an actor that I see a lot in the movies that I end up watching. I just don't see him a lot. Surprisingly, I see Rebecca Ferguson more, not by choice. But but with Timothy Chalamet, I thought he was electric in this particular role. It felt like something that was like almost perfect for him. You know how you feel that like when you see, even though I don't really care too much for the Christopher Reeves Superman movies because of their limitations at the time to show me with Superman, because Christopher Reeve himself was a good Superman. Like he is Superman. You see what I'm saying? Like as an actor,
Yep.
he was like built to play that role. It was perfect for him.
Right.
That's how I feel about about Timothy Chalamet as Paul Atreides. I feel like it's the first time when I'm seeing Michael Keaton as Batman. Like the casting was so perfect for it that it's my first time seeing that. I can't imagine seeing anyone else playing this particular role because I know I'm not giving up on Dune. I plan on watching it again in the next week because there's so much in this movie that I feel that if it's your first time, it's impossible to really take all of it in and appreciate it the right way.
It really is. And to the point where on the way to the theater, Karen was telling me, okay, what do I need to know? And I realized
Mhm.
that, wow, there's a lot that you
There's
need
a
to
lot.
know.
Yeah.
So I gave her a precursor, right? I introduced
Mhm.
her to all the families. I introduced her to the political thing. I introduced her to the Bene Gesserits and the guild
Oh
and
man,
right.
yeah, that was cool. That was cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So she came into it already knowing who the characters were, but I
Mhm.
didn't spoil what the plot was or what all the
Mhm.
houses had to do with each other or anything like that, which I think helped her a lot. But
Yeah.
she was still kind of lost in some places.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
Well, because there's so much.
it,
It's
it-
just because it's
right.
dense.
And they actually
Very dense.
Very dense.
use and apparently I heard later on that in press screenings they actually gave them a glossary of terms so they can look up what a Chris knife was.
That does not surprise me because that
Yeah.
was kind of my thing going into it where because the way I feel about it is it was tough for me to get into, especially in the first act, because there is just so much that you kind of have to, if you don't know it, they throw a lot at you that you kind of have to be able to reconcile in your head pretty quickly.
Right.
And
Right.
but by the end of the movie though, I was in. I was invested. By the time we got to the
Yes.
end,
Yeah.
like
Yes.
all the difficulty I had in the first act, with each act, that went away
You know,
exponentially.
Nick, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of my favorite moment in like screenwriting over the past year or so when I was watching Tenet and in the script, right when I'm trying to follow along and figure out what the hell is going on in the script, almost on beat, a character says, "Don't try to figure it out.
Right.
It'll come to you." Right? Like it'll come to you naturally. Just follow.
It
You know,
will.
you'll catch up.
It will.
And that's kind of how I felt with Dune. Like
Yeah.
at the very beginning, I was really, really lost.
Yeah.
But as first off, as stuff started to come into play, I got back there. But even while you're trying to figure it out, this movie is so freaking beautiful.
Yeah.
Just looking at what's on the screen,
Yeah.
like it really made me want to give it more, so I stuck with it longer to get to that point.
The production design is, I mean, it's
Oh
just
yeah,
it's
yeah. I mean,
unbelievable.
if they don't get
Unbelievable.
nominated for some Academy Awards for
Yeah,
visual
these
effects
awards,
and production
definitely.
design,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I mean that'll be a crime in and of itself.
but then to take it even further to your point, Tom, about this not being for everybody, but Denis Villeneuve, the type of director that he
Mhm.
doesn't put in a lot of artificial things to make you feel anything. He allows a
No,
narrative to
that's
tell the
very true.
story and allow you to get caught up in the story or not, right? So
Yeah.
Mhm.
when a certain thing happens about halfway through the movie that changes everything, right? It
Mhm.
just happens. There's no crescendo of music coming on. There's no
Yeah.
feeling of foreboding. It just happens, and you go, "Whoa, we're in it! Holy crap!" Right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. That's
and
happening right now.
Well, and
it's
because that is,
perfect.
if that were to happen in life, that's how it would happen.
Right. So I
Right.
think that people who are accustomed to the big blockbusters where the Michael Bays of the world build up the music and build the explosions and you know it's something's
Why
coming
do you say
before it
the big
comes.
blockbusters and you start with Michael Bay?
Well, I
Like
mean,
him.
the
Like
back in the
there's better
day,
versions.
yeah,
I think he's I think
but
he's
they,
trying I think he's trying to illustrate this is a good movie and Michael Bay makes bad movies.
yes, yes, yes. This is a movie that allows you to
He makes movies.
develop your own thoughts and feelings based on the story and the characters, not on fabricated musical
Right.
cues that you're supposed to
Yes.
get. Oh, I'm supposed to feel a
Well,
certain way now.
well, I got to tell you that is very true. I agree with all of that completely, and I think that the way that Denis Villeneuve directed this film was pretty great in most parts. I do wish. Okay, my biggest gripe is because it is very dense. There are certain things I wish that even though like the sequence of it was very very cool, I wish I had a little bit more explanation so I could enjoy it more the first time around because that's where I think he's going to lose people who aren't already fans or aren't like me. They were just so enamored with the awesomeness of what they were
Right.
seeing that they're like, look, I don't know it. I don't know what's going on right now, but I'm all in. I will watch it 3 more times in the next 2 weeks to make sure I've got everything.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
That would be I agree.
I couldn't agree.
That would be my one gripe too, is that if there is one flaw, it's that it probably doesn't do a good enough job of like hooking you early enough. You kind of got to stick with it a little bit before the hooks really
Yeah,
if you're more of a casual like we are who don't know as much, you kind of got to just give it that time.
but but that's his
Hmm.
style. Like, look at Arrival.
I agree.
Look at Blade Runner 2049. That's his style.
I
He's
agree.
not going to spoon feed you anything. He's saying, "Come along for the ride. If you
Yeah.
stick with it, you'll get rewarded at the end." But that's why I say that I think it would have if maybe a trilogy of movies out of this one book, because then you could have developed the characters better. You could let's go in. Can we go into spoilers? Because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
need to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's do
let's
that.
go. Okay, real quick. Verdict. Final. Let's get a verdict from everybody. I think everybody agrees. I think it's great. I don't think it's for everybody, but if you give it time, please
Yeah.
watch this movie. Watch Dune. I think
Yeah.
you want to watch it just to be able to keep up with the awards.
Yeah, and really, and really do yourself a favor and watch it on the biggest screen possible because it is impactful to feel these massive buildings, ships, everything. It's just
Mhm.
worms, desert vistas, everything. If you watch it on IMAX, do it. But it's
Yeah.
incredible.
No, it's
So
a good
now
movie.
moving
Halloween
on to
Kills bad, Dune good.
yes. All right. So fair warning, from this point forward, there are spoilers. So if you've not
Yes.
watched Dune, we suggest you put this on pause, go watch the movie, and then come back. It's on HBO Max. You can do it right now, right in your home. Just turn on the TV and watch
Yeah,
it, right? And then come back because we have some things to
definitely
talk
come
about.
back.
Yeah.
Yes, please
Okay.
come back.
So
Please come back.
you've been forewarned. Okay. Now, the death of Duke Leto
Uh-huh.
Yes.
was massive in the book because
Mhm.
you fell in love with this family. The Atreides,
Mhm.
you fell in love with Lady Jessica, you fell in love with Paul, you fell in love with Duke, Gurney, Duncan. Like they were everything. And then when Dr. Yui betrayed him, and
It meant something.
when he was sitting there and he had that poison tooth in his mouth, and you
Mhm.
were hoping secretly, no, there's no way. Remember, I was 14 years old. This stuff didn't happen yet, right? This book was written a long ass time ago before all of this
Mhm.
stuff started happening by rote. I was thinking, there's no way they're going to kill this guy. This guy is the hero of the story. There's no possible way. So when he bit down in the tooth and he actually died, I was devastated. And yet when Oscar Isaac's Duke Leto died, I didn't feel it
Well,
because
you know,
Well,
it
I mean,
wasn't
he
developed
doesn't.
enough.
Well, and he doesn't.
Exactly.
And yeah, I was gonna say he doesn't. I mean, he's not the main character, or at least it's not present like Timothy Chalamet.
not
At
in
least
this.
to me, when I watched it, was clearly presented. Here's your protagonist. Here's your Neo. He's the one. Here's your Neo.
And he
You
is,
know.
and he is,
Right.
and he is in the book too. But the Duke is also, he is a very strong secondary
Right.
character.
Right.
Like, not knowing where the story is going, the Duke was the man, right? And Paul was the young apprentice who was going to be studying under the Duke to take over eventually the fiefdom, whatever. And then that happens maybe a quarter of the book in. So you're like, oh my God, the book just started and you're already killing like one of my favorite characters.
Right.
What the hell's going on?
Right.
Right. I didn't feel that in the book because he didn't have the time to develop. That's why I said at the very beginning about Gurney Halleck. This guy's a weapons master. This guy is a badass fighter that trains Paul how to fight. And we barely caught that. We had one sequence, but
And that was Josh Brolin's character,
Yeah.
right?
Josh Brolin, yeah. And so I really need, because we're going to see Gurney Halleck in the second part of the movie. Spoiler, right? To you guys,
Thanos will come back,
and he will have undergone a transformation because of all the stuff that they went through to survive.
Gotcha.
And that's going to pay off eventually. But if you really knew the guy, and we assume he's dead because they're all dead. You saw Duncan Idaho get killed on screen, so you're assuming all the Atreides except for Paul and Jessica are dead. So I don't have the vested interest to think, oh my God, it hurts me that Gurney Halleck is dead. Like I didn't feel that, and I should have. That's
Right.
my one gripe.
Well, and I was gonna say
no
too,
offense to
and the
Denny.
thing is, like you said, when you were a kid, like we didn't culturally, we have seen many more examples of people who are either the main character or super prominent characters that you would never think would get killed off. Probably most prominently with the example we've already compared it to, which is Game of Thrones. I mean, that's probably the biggest modern example of someone who you're like, well, this guy can't die. And then the show's like, okay, bet. Chops his head off. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So like, it's interesting because from my perspective, watching the movie, I was in my head, I was like, oh yeah, he's definitely going to die. Like he's going to do it. He's going to bite the tooth and he's going to do the thing. Cause I figured at that point, like, why wouldn't he? Cause he's not, in my mind, I'm like, he's not going to get out of this situation.
Absolutely.
So like
reading the book,
what,
I was convinced he was going to find a way. That's how badass this guy was.
See, and it's so weird because I'm the Game of Thrones generation now. I've been conditioned to be like, oh no, you're not getting out of this.
The Game of Thrones generation.
Yeah, like I'm
everyone here is gonna die.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like Game of Thrones.
Are they sitting down for dinner? Oh no.
Yeah, like that. Well, that's the thing. Like Game of Thrones really kind of changed the game because it was one of the first shows where it's like, yo, actions really do have consequences. Like it's not there is no he's gonna find a way out of it because we like him so much. It's no, he fucked up and he's gonna die now. Like,
it's funny because I call that just the post HBO original series generation anyway. Because like I swear, once the HBO original series all started, everybody was expendable. Like it just in like when you're watching, like because you're watching through The Sopranos now, Nick. As you're watching through The Sopranos, like every character feels like they're expendable, like at any moment. Even the only one that you feel pretty safe is Tony, and then even there, like half of the show, you're not even sure about that.
Exactly.
So, it's like it's kind of crazy. But I will say this: what the hell did the Atreides do to be hated like this? Somebody not knowing going in, it just starts off and they're like, Atreides. I'm like,
and see that was one of the things that I explained to Karen going into it because I had a feeling it wasn't going to be very well developed.
Yeah, because I'm thinking to myself, this is how I took it. At first, I was thinking, okay, so House Atreides is apparently becoming so powerful that the emperor, who, I'm assuming is like a king or a very feudal kind of thing, has all these different houses and different people who and dukes and people who lead them. And Atreides is becoming too powerful, so he probably wants to cut them down a peg and make them and the Harkonnen go to war over Arrakis. That's what I was catching. However, he laid the groundwork in such a way that he piled it on the Atreides that he obviously did not want them to. He didn't want to cut them down a peg or two. It's like, no, I want them out. The whole thing. The whole damn thing.
Scorched earth. Scorched earth.
So, do you want me to explain it to you, or do you?
Well, hold on, but then I realized that, like, not only was the Emperor like coming in with the Harkonnen hardcore on the Atreides, but the other nobody else was like, "Yo, hey, Oscar Isaac, they're about to get you, bro."
Yeah, there was
nobody. There was no. You have no friends.
No, I mean, it was like we were saying, the event that takes place that kind of changed. I mean, it really is. It's like Pearl Harbor. Like, everything is fine.
Right,
all of a sudden,
bad.
shit just starts blowing up. You know what I mean? Like, and that's
and I did not. And here's the thing. Here's the thing, though, Will. To your part where you said that you didn't feel anything when Oscar Isaac particularly died. I didn't necessarily feel anything to what you felt when you were probably reading the book, but partially because Oscar Isaac is like one of my favorite actors. I love him. So seeing that he wasn't in the movie anymore naturally made me upset. But but I also was like, just the way this whole thing just kind of came, like literally like a thief in the night, and all of a sudden everybody's gone, and like this whole thing, like, and it's felt like I was like, I just met these people. And as soon as I started connecting to them and started following, like right then, was right before that is right where the movie had hooked me. And I was like, all right, I'm all in. Tell me everything. And right when I'm like, tell me everything, he's like, nope. It's all going away in fire. Right?
No, we're moving on. Timothy Chalamet is now going to walk through the desert like Moses for 40 years.
And I'm like, holy shit. Okay, so I'm like trying to keep up with all of that. So I did feel something when it happened. And it was kind of like this feeling of just immense loss, and the idea that, it really set it up where Paul is really just the underdog in this situation, which is good, because the idea of the whole Messiah thing, like, I was already like, even though I know this book came out forever ago, as we know, that troop, it's just been done to death. It's been done to death. You know what I'm saying? So I already was like, yeah, great. He's, like you said, he's another Neo. It's another one. It's another, but really, Neo is a Paul Atreides. So, but the point is, I was kind of over that. But when that whole idea that, like, the whole house came, because my idea of what I thought the movie was going to be was him ascending to that point of taking over the house. And I thought there was going to be some inner politics in there and some shadiness. No, none at all. It's like, they're done, dude. Yep. They're like 15, 20 minutes in, they're gone.
Well, and I think to what you said, Tom, about the fact that you love Oscar Isaac so much, I was going to say, I wouldn't be shocked if that's partially why Denis Villeneuve cast him in the first place, is because he's like, this guy, the actor himself, is so beloved. I'm not going to have a whole lot of time to really spend with him. So I'm just going to, I'm going to bank on people loving Oscar Isaac, so that when I kill him, they will be sad.
Because Oscar Isaac doesn't need too much, because I'm going to tell you what, that one scene between him and Timothée Chalamet, where he gives him that line, like, Nick probably thought it was corny, but when he gives him that line and he says, all I ever needed you to be was my son. Right? Like, even in that, like,
the water, the water.
Yeah. And that scene, I was like, because my thing is this, since they were already like pompous, like, he was a duke and everything there, I was already naturally like not trusting him at first, just like, maybe he's not like a good, just thinking they were going to take that trope and he was going to probably not be a good dad. And but in that moment I was like, no, he loves his son.
Yeah. And
there's something really there.
Yes.
And they did such a great job.
And that is exactly why I didn't think it was corny. That's like when that moment happened, because I had the same feeling at first. Was I thought they might go down that path of being like, oh, like, this is your birthright, you have to do this, blah blah blah.
Right.
But it was just so nice to be like, oh shit, like, he's actually a good dad. Like, he's
right, exactly.
like he's what you wish more of these tropey dads were. Like, he was actually talking sense, where he was like, listen, you can do whatever you want. I would appreciate it if you would at least give this a chance before you decide it's not for you, because
Yeah.
I didn't want to do it either. But I found my own way to it. So at least give it a chance. But if you don't like it, dude, do whatever. If you want to go open a fucking cupcake store or whatever, go do
You're
that.
right.
Like, you'll still be my son.
You're
And
right.
I honestly did have that moment where I was like, that is really sweet. Like, I'm really
Yes.
glad to see that, where it's not just that stupid trope of, you better live up to everything that I expect of you, and
Right. He sounded like a real father.
Yes, he sounded real.
Like Jonathan Kent in Man of Steel. Moving on. So-
No, no,
Like a real
no.
father.
And then
Like, yeah,
and then
we're not
he,
gonna
and
go
then
there.
and then and then he
We're not gonna
just
go there.
and then
No,
he just
Clark,
stood.
I want you to
and-
sacrifice a school bus.
That's not what he said. That's not what he said.
And then
He
Oscar
said
and
he
then
didn't
Oscar
know the right
Isaac
answer.
and then
He
Oscar
said he
Isaac
didn't know the right
and then
answer.
Oscar
That's a real
Isaac and then Oscar Isaac just stood in a tornado.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
He stood in the tornado because they weren't ready. Because you have to
No, but
figure out the man you're going to be.
But I agree.
Anyway, the
I
point
did think
is-
that was a good moment, though. I actually did like that,
Yeah.
and I didn't think it was corny because of the
Yeah.
context of that.
So there,
Yeah, and I think they really just killed that scene. They did a really good job with that. I'm sorry. Well, go ahead.
it's all good. There's so much that you guys don't know that there's just no way that you guys could know. Which is why
Mhm.
it's so difficult. This movie has always been so hard. Apparently, they're talking about how Dune is the unfilmable book because there's so much to it. Like, did you guys catch the word the Landsrad at all in the movie?
I felt like I think so. But here's the thing, dude. There were so many things that
Yeah.
were said along with names trying to keep up.
There's a lot of words,
there's,
man.
There's names that you'll never forget, like Duncan, Idaho. Like there's no way
Right.
I'm gonna forget that.
Right.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? But then there's also like Chani and stuff. Like I'm like, I gotta keep up with
Yeah.
that and the chrysalis knife or whatever. Yeah, I'm
The Chris knife. So the
Chris knife. There you go. Thank you.
So the Landsrad was the term was dropped by Jason Momoa at one point
Mhm.
in the movie only once, and that's a big thing. The Landsrad is a committee of great houses, which the Atreides and the Harkonnens are part of. There are
Okay.
only two out of a whole bunch of houses that compose the Landsrad, and the Emperor oversees all that. But the Landsrad is almost like Congress to the Emperor's president, right? So
Okay.
so if the Emperor decides to go after one house, the whole Landsrad is going to be all up in arms, because if he moves against one house, wants to stop him from moving against all the rest of us, so we have to band together, right? So he had to do it in secret, right? So
Is that what happened? Because
Yes.
it was so not a secret. Like
Yes.
he burnt your house down.
the only people that knew about it were the Harkonnens and the Emperor's troops, the Sardaukar,
Right.
went in clandestinely. No one could know that Sardaukar was there. Remember, that's what they kept saying, right? So the whole thing is that the Emperor is a real bitch, man. He is a selfish, jealous guy who hates the fact that Duke Lido was so beloved by so many people that everyone in the Landsrad was expecting the Duke to be the next guy to take the throne. And the Emperor was not having none of it. So he wanted to wipe him off the face of the earth because the Atreides are getting
That's
too
petty.
popular. Too popular.
Yeah, so it's like the people that wanted to kill Jesus, more or less.
Pretty much.
It's like petty as hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Petty reason.
And in fact,
Just-
in the book,
petty.
there's a lot of religious undertones to
Yeah.
this on both sides, Christianity and Islam. Like
Right.
Mhm.
there's a whole, and they changed it in the movie. They're talking about a crusade, but in the book they actually called it a jihad. So I mean, they went
Ah.
all in on it. Probably to diffuse. I mean, the term jihad.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I wonder why they
bad.
didn't call it a jihad in the movie.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure I know why.
Yeah. So that's the explanation why that they just wanted to scorch earth the Atreides. They wanted them off the
Mhm.
planet because
Right.
they wanted,
Right.
and the way to do that is to completely obliterate them with the trap that they did, right? The Harkonnens coming in and taking over.
And the Emperor is a bad dude. He didn't even succumb to the poison, or at least
Well,
not.
that's the
or
Baron.
at least
That's the Baron.
Here's
That's
the thing.
okay.
That's not even
The Baron's badass
Oh, okay.
though.
See,
Like,
that's-
I mean, he was scary. I wasn't scared of him, but he was like just a visual to behold. Man, that
Yes.
crazy spot when he was like on the ceiling, like having gotten away from the poison,
Yeah.
like from the tooth
and
and everything.
he didn't explain how he did that. He's so fat that he can't physically move himself because he's too fat. So he has these things attached to his back that are anti-grav repulsors that actually lift him and walk him around. That's how he gets around.
You know what's funny is I didn't even need an explanation. It looked so effing cool.
Well, that's good to
that
know
I was
because
just like, that's how he is.
because when that first time when he lifted up and he had this big long like undershirt thing that was dragging all the way to the ground, and he was way up. I was thinking, wow, are people going to say, is this guy like a vampire or something? How is he flying up into the air, or is he really tall? Like I was thinking, how are they explaining this? But I'm glad to know that it didn't
Hey
need
man,
explanation.
in sci-fi, if something looks cool enough, we'll just take it. Like we don't necessarily need an explanation. The first time I saw Darth Vader, I didn't know why he was in that stupid helmet, but that shit looked dope.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's honestly, that's how I feel about prequels. I don't need to know.
Mhm.
I don't need to know Boba Fett's backstory. I really don't. I honestly, I do not need Darth Vader's backstory either. So that's what the prequel series was.
Well, sometimes I'm okay. Sometimes I hate when I get like dumb answers for stuff. Like
Han
my
Solo's
buddy
thing.
Justin.
Like midichlorians.
My favorite example is Nick Fury. My buddy Justin called it when they announced the Captain Marvel movie. He said that cat's gonna claw out Nick Fury's eye, and that's how he lost the eye.
Right.
And then that crap happens, and so it's like, wow. I was like, that is the dumbest. Like, and when he said it, it was just like like a throwaway line that he was just throwing out there, making a quick joke or whatever.
Right.
And then the fact that that's literally how it happened, like it, and now the mystique of whatever happened to Nick Fury's eye is like not only gone now entirely, but it's also kind of like lame. That's an answer. It's just lame. So but so not everything. Sometimes it's cool to understand how we got to a certain point. Like I think that for the prequels for Star Wars, they did a horrible job with explaining Darth Vader getting to that point, but I actually like going back and seeing that the Jedi Council itself was actually just incompetent on the grand scheme of things.
That's what I didn't want to see. I don't want to see that. To me, the Jedi. We're getting off topic. No,
we are getting off topic. We are getting off topic.
It relates back to what we're really talking about, which is Dune.
Yes. Because the one thing I will say is you guys keep comparing this to Game of Thrones in space, which is funny because I'm not a medieval fan. So it's like kind of one of the only things that's kept me from really just sitting down and watching Game of Thrones beyond the first couple of episodes. Because, one of my best friends tells me all the time, he's like, you would love it for the politicking, like, deep, that side of it and everything there. And I was like, yeah, I probably would. But like just something about the medieval aesthetic, it just does not entice me. The same way that I said that, I was lost at the beginning of Dune, but everything I was seeing was making me go, no, I'm all the way in though. I will stick around and figure this shit out. Right. Like medieval stuff, I lose that when I watch Game of Thrones. Right. Whereas when I'm watching this here, I was thinking to myself, I was like, I wish, as much as I love this movie, like I did love the movie, and I will just go back and rewatch it till I've got it all. And then probably read a book now, thanks to the books and everything like that, thanks to Will and everybody else.
I was actually going to suggest it if you like politics, because the book goes way into it. Like, for example, Dr. Yui, who betrayed him, was absolutely uncorruptible for a reason. The diamond on his forehead, there's a reason he has it on there that he didn't explain at all. I mean, there's a lot in the book.
Stuff like that. Like so that's my thing is like, because my thing was this, when I watched this movie, I was like, if I enjoyed this with as little knowledge as I have and as little as I actually picked out of this movie to know that I need to go back to watch it, it's kind of like when I finished Tenet. Like, I'm not exactly sure about everything that happened, but I got to go watch this again until I got it, right? Same kind of thing for me here. Whereas with you, I knew it was going to be different because Will's a fan. So like when you see that on his head, you get that whole mark out moment of knowing what that means. Yeah. Even though the movie never explains it or touches it at all, really.
Something else, the guys with the black line on their lips,
Yeah,
whose
the
eyes
robots,
the,
the like android.
they're not.
They're androids.
They're not,
They're
because
not androids.
in this world, thinking machines were outlawed, because
What?
there was
Okay, so
there was a war long time ago where the machines revolted against humanity, so they outlawed
yeah,
thinking machines.
Yeah,
naturally.
that's called the Terminator.
Right.
Oh wait, so wait a minute, hold on, because I love to place all of my sci-fi stuff. Like
Right.
Star Wars starts first because it happened a long time ago.
Right. long time ago. Yeah.
So Dune actually is post Terminator.
Well, they actually
Yes, the machines have already
But
rebelled.
we win.
Yes.
We actually win.
they
Yeah.
actually
So it's alternate.
they gave you
It's
a year.
alternate version.
They
Yeah.
give you
Yeah.
a year in the movie. Is 10,000 something. It was a year in
Oh,
this
wow.
movie. You missed it.
Oh wow, I missed it. I missed
No,
it. Then.
I
Yeah,
think I
'cause
did see
there's-
that. Yeah, 10,000 something. Yeah.
Well, but my thing would be this about it, because I really thought that I thought they were androids because of how quickly they were reading up. So what is it? Explain it to me.
They are actually people who have developed their brains so much. They're called mentats, and they're
Uh-huh.
able to access information. When they roll their eyes up, they're accessing information that's in their brains. So they act like
Okay.
computers. They're like human
But they're
computers.
not.
They're
So
human.
yeah, so they just have a lot of. So they're Batman,
No.
but without Batman, no kung fu. Nick, there we go.
No, I thought that was actually that was one of those things like because like Tom obviously is very much into the aesthetic, and the sci-fi aesthetic is not
Beautiful.
always my favorite aesthetic necessarily, but I will say the whole eye thing when I saw that for the first time in the early on in the movie, I was like, that's cool. That's an interesting like spin on something like that I've never seen before. Because for me, like with sci-fi, I feel like a lot of times the most effective way to communicate sci-fi stuff, especially to people who maybe aren't the most into sci-fi, is to keep everything relatively within the realm of stuff that we recognize as human, but just tweak it a little bit.
Right.
So like
that's
instead
cool.
of like humans, and obviously I know now what they're really doing is rolling their eyes in the back of their head, but when I first watched it, I was like, it almost looked like they were blinking, but instead of blinking with their eyelids, it was like their eyes were like changing colors or whatever. So
Right.
like usually to me that's like the most effective thing. Keep it mostly recognizably human, but just alter it just a little bit, just a touch.
Well, that's also why I really liked the dragonfly helicopter, like
Oh, yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Like, they look like freaking dragon. Like you can't tell me that wasn't the plan.
I'm telling
Right?
you, in the book, I mean, those things are called ornithopters, and
Ornithopters. Yes.
and they are described just like you saw them in the movie.
Just
man.
like that.
I mean, I'm telling these are things that when I saw the ornithopter for the first time, I got chills down my spine because I'm watching the book come to life on the screen for me right this minute.
Mhm.
I could talk about this movie in the book literally for weeks. I
We
would
don't
say
have that kind of time.
I know.
Yeah, I was gonna say literally everything we say, Will's just like, yes, and in the book, this is what it is. Like we're
This is
getting
what-
we're
Yeah,
getting the
so-
lessons. Yeah.
So I would say if you like the movie and you like this political intrigue type of thing, I would recommend you pick up the book because there's so much more to it than you saw on screen. He did an admirable job with what he could on that screen. He came the closest anyone will ever come to putting Dune.
And he's got another
on
movie.
screen. Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe 3, because I actually saw something he mentioned today
Well,
where something about potentially about going
he's
and doing a third one.
yeah, but he's talking about doing another book for the
A
third
different book?
Yeah,
Okay.
there's another book called Children of Dune that comes afterwards.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Which continues the story, but to me is not as good as the original. But
Well, I mean, it's the first. You never forget your first
You
time.
never hit that
First
again.
time is always the best. You're always just chasing that dragon after the first one.
but I would urge you guys to read it if you're at all interested in that kind of stuff because it's just fantastic. I've read the book, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 times in my life. And my mother-in-law loves it too, and she's read it a ton of times. And she's the only person I can really talk to about it. So I love. Please read the book so I can talk.
Don't worry. I will. I'm gonna tell you this. At the very least, I'm gonna watch this movie a couple more times and get more into it there. And through enjoying that, I'm sure I'll just eventually rabbit hole down to the point of reading the book and getting way more into this whole Dune thing because I'm gonna tell you, like I said, Denis Villeneuve, he won me over, and has converted me to want to know more about Dune.
And then once you read the book, then once COVID is over, I'll have you guys over to play the board game because it is badass. It is awesome.
Well, I'll take you
There
up
you
on
go.
that. And I got to say too, like from the
Same.
perspective of like someone who, isn't the biggest sci-fi fan in the world, I can actually see me watching this movie again. And I would say, to other people who may not necessarily, if sci-fi isn't necessarily your thing, I would recommend you at least give it a try. Because
Mhm.
I think there are going to be things that you will find that you like in it apart from the stuff that you think you won't like in it, if that makes sense. Like if you're
Agreed.
a fan of actors and acting, there's a decent chance one of your favorite actors in this movie, like I'm just saying, everybody's in this movie. So there, if you love Josh Brolin, watch this movie. If you love Javier Bardem, who doesn't love Jason Momoa, for God's sake? Come on.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Everybody loves
And
Like-
this is Jason Momoa without a beard, so it's weird.
That's
to watch him.
so I
Yeah.
will say that's the one thing I didn't like. I am firmly in the camp of I am very
He needs to have a beard.
I'm anti clean shaven Jason Momoa. We can't have that. We need
Well,
bearded.
Nick needed one critique in there.
That's
and
true. That's true.
the-
But you know what? If that's the critique, the movie was pretty good.
Yeah, and even that, and even his look was a departure from the Duncan Idaho from the book because he was very clean cut in the book, and and Jason Momoa sported his little ponytail in the back, but he
wasn't going to cut that.
Right,
No.
right.
That wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, no,
But I'll tell
that's
you
in
what,
his contract. He has to look at least a certain percentage like Jason Momoa, no
Right.
matter what he does.
Maybe you should get Denis Villeneuve to make you a Flash movie, Will, because I think he'll be the one that gives you a blonde Barry Allen.
Sadly, we're already getting a stupid Flash movie.
Hold on.
with
Let me
Ezra
say
Miller.
this. I, as a Batman fan, I'm all in on the Flash movie. I couldn't give two shits about the Flash, but you're bringing back Michael Keaton, and you're bringing back. Not only are you bringing back Michael Keaton, you're gonna bring back the Anton First Batmobile from the '89 movie, which is my favorite all-time Batmobile. I am there with bells on, sir.
Nick made my whole argument right there. I'm with him too. This is not a Flash movie anymore. This is our movie. Okay.
And they knew that they had to do that in order to salvage this train wreck of a movie.
Hey, yeah, exactly. Hey, but you know what? I don't want to hear it. Y'all about to get like 5 different Spider-Mans in this other. Okay, I get Batman. I'm fine.
Yeah. You finally got a good Dune. We get Batman in the Flash movie.
Yeah, we get Batman in the. You know what? I want Batman in the next Aquaman movie too. While we're at it,
I do too. I told somebody when I saw that Flash trailer, I was like, they did the one thing that makes me want to see a Flash movie. They made it about Batman.
I'm gonna tell you, if they threw, all of a sudden you just see Batman showing up in all these random ass movies. It's like Green Lantern 2 with Batman.
That's right.
Green Lantern and Batman.
Because they know who their real moneymaker is. Warner Brothers knows who the real cash cow is. Nobody really gives a shit about Green Lantern. Nobody really cares about Aquaman.
All right,
they want Batman.
Hold on.
Really
you know why they care about those guys? You know why they care about those guys, Nick? Because they want to know what those guys have to say to Batman.
Yes,
okay,
that's exactly right. They know because Batman needs people to be like, okay, sit down now. Give me the full Tower of Babel. He can kill all of them if he wants to. I'm just saying.
I expected you guys to say the reason why they needed the other characters is to see how Batman could beat the crap out of these different.
Well,
types of characters.
no. They're there to take orders from Batman. That's why he tells them what he's the strategist. He's like, all right, here's the plan. Now go execute that.
Exactly.
All right, guys. I would love to talk about Batman all day long and Dune all day long, but we've been going out for it.
We have. I think we've spent a full hour on Dune. I've been watching the clock.
Oh.
Yeah, no, Dune. I think Dune needed it because I think the final verdicts from everybody is that you know what, it's great.
It's good.
I gotta tell
it is a solid. It is good. It's a good movie.
Yeah, go see. I see. Go see it if you can on a big screen.
Yeah,
I will say that I myself I watched it on 3 different screens that weren't the big screen,
Don't tell
and
him.
I
Don't
oh,
tell him
and
this part,
but don't
Tom.
worry. Hey, I'm gonna see it again anyway. And on my projector, I was like, because while I was watching, I was like, I just really enjoyed this. I was like, I'm gonna get the projector out and everything, and do the thing, and watch it on as big as I can see it, because it's very good. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome.
So I recommend it to everybody, even if it
Don't
might
watch
not be
it
your
on your
thing.
phone. Don't do that.
God.
I watched it on my phone too. I did that. I did that, Will. So you can be disappointed. You and Chris Nolan can be disappointed in me. I looked at it on my phone.
The
I
dude,
did that. I watched it on my lunch
he
break.
literally texted me yesterday and told me he had watched some of it on his phone. I was like, dude, don't tell Will that. Don't tell him that. You're gonna crush his soul.
Listen, guys, that is probably the most hurtful thing you could possibly have told me, is that you watched it on your phone. But
Hey, I still liked it.
at the very, I was just going to go there. But at least it warms me to my core that you guys enjoyed
I did.
this movie.
I did, and not
really
even being a big sci-fi fan. Like I said, by the end of it, it was tough for me to get into, because it is. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of characters. I did feel like I should have had a glossary that they gave to those press screening people.
He's building an entire world that is completely lived in, that is very real, and in order to do that, you got to get some sort of buy-in at some point.
No, and we talk
I
about.
think that makes.
I was gonna say, with the movies we've watched, we talk about like whether or not people succeed at what they're trying to do.
Right.
This is a movie, definitively, I don't think you can argue this. He absolutely succeeds in what he is trying to do. Like, it does feel lived in. The cast is great. Like, it's whatever the mark he was trying to hit, he absolutely hit it.
I think he hit it.
Yeah.
I think I agree with you, Nick.
Crushed it.
I think this is the first movie that we've reviewed on the podcast that we all can collectively say, hey, not only did we appreciate it, but we think you should go see it.
Yeah, I
So
recommend
please.
it. Even if you're not a sci-fi fan like me necessarily, I still think you should at least give it a shot. Just like Oscar Isaac says to Timothy Chalamet, hey man, maybe this isn't your thing, but at least try it first, just to see. At least give it a shot.
Give it a shot.
That was nice. Nicely done. I like that.
Good stuff.
All right,
Good
guys,
stuff.
thanks so much for discussing my favorite property with me.
Absolutely.
I really
I'm glad it was
course,
I
dude.
was afraid you were gonna not like it for some reason when you said you had a lot to say. Like, I was really worried. Like, I really hope it didn't like crush his spirit. I was
trying
really
to be
happy.
cryptic.
Yeah, I was really happy, because that's such a cool thing. Like, it's so cool because a lot of times we get our hopes up and then things don't meet our expectations, and that can be a bummer, and then you're like sad for a week and all that kind of crap.
Let's face it, 9 times out of 10, that's exactly what happens, because nothing can actually live up to the image you got in your mind, right? This dude did it. This dude was the one, the 10. He did it because
and that's
what
great.
I saw on screen was exactly what I read in the book. It was perfect.
Yeah, and that's awesome, because that's sometimes I think that's about the highest compliment that a filmmaker can have, honestly, especially with something like this.
Yeah, but I got
fans are hard to please.
Yes.
And I gotta say, no, being a huge fan of Denis Villeneuve, I had a lot of confidence that he was going to knock it out of the park, just because of what I know about him, and how much he really likes this property and how faithful he was being to it. I had a really good feeling that he was going to do it right, and he totally did. So,
hey Nick, this is how we felt when we saw The Dark Knight.
Yeah. Well, after Batman in the mid to late 90s, it was nice to see it done.
It makes me so sad that you equate that to this.
Hey, look, dude,
that is still one of the
moment
best
that the Joker took.
made.
No, look, dude, the moment the Joker took the mask off and it's the Joker again, and he's done all this killing, I was just like, thank you, Christopher Nolan.
Yes.
This is what I wanted.
Yeah.
This is what I wanted. And then guess what? Hey, Will, I wept.
No, I did too.
All right. So
Dune is a good movie. Go see it. Give it a shot. You'll
definitely.
You'll find something to like in it. I guarantee you.
I hope so, but I do think that some people are going to be bored. That's the only thing that I think. But anyway,
that's
thanks so much for sticking with us for this whole time. we have an email. Let's get realmoviepod@gmail.com. We'd love to get your thoughts. Did you like Dune? Did you like Hollywood, Halloween Kills?
Halloween, Hollywood kills Halloween.
Right. Halloween Kills Hollywood. We want to hear your thoughts, good or
Yes.
bad. We want to
Yes.
hear it. And we might be able to read it on the show. So please reach
definitely.
out and let us know. So
Awesome.
until next time, it's been fun. This was Let's Get Real.